Hi folks, today we are going to learn about division of fractions, and I want to begin with this very real life example. So here you can see half of an apple, and this is how we write it, 1 over 2, or we call it 1 half. And let's say we want to divide it by 1/4. So when we say we want to divide it by 1/4, what we mean is we want to divide it into 1/4, and question is how many 1/4s we can divide it into. So the answer is we can divide this half an apple into two 1/4s. Okay, and that's why the answer is 2. So when we say half divided by 1/4 is equal to 2, this is what actually means. There's just one situation where this can be explained. So half an apple divided into quarters, we get 2 quarters, and that's why answer is 2. This is how we do it procedurally. 1 over 2 divided by 1 over 4. So we can just divide numerators and we can divide denominators. So 1 divided by 1 is equal to 1, 2 divided by 4 is equal to half, 0.5 is half. And we can divide numerator, which is 1, by denominator. So 2 times half is actually 1. So answer is 2. And that's what we saw here. So this is a procedural way, but we don't use this method very frequently. I just wanted to show you this we use another method that I'm going to discuss next. Because in this method, when we divide denominators and numerators, we run into fractions, and then it becomes a little challenging to handle them. Okay, so another thing which I want to emphasize that we should always, when we have division problems or other problems in fractions, almost like any problems in mathematics, we need to understand what it means. When we say half divided by quarter, what it means. If we understand its meaning, well, we understand the concept and reasoning. If we don't understand the meaning, that means we haven't understood the concept. And so then we cannot apply it. So here in this case, when we say half divided by quarter, what we mean is that how many quarters are, if we divide half into quarters, how many quarters? So half dividing into quarters are times a quarter is subtracted from half. Both meanings will give us this answer too, and both meanings are correct. All right. So this is the concept of division of fractions. All right. So let's look at some more problems, and I want to begin with this problem involving whole numbers. 30 divided by 6, and we know it is equal to 5. 5 times 6 is 30. And that we can show in this way. When we say 5 times 6, basically what we mean that 6 can be subtracted from 35 times. And that is detailed here. 30 minus 6 is 24, 24 minus 6 is 18, minus 6 is 12, and 12 minus 6 is 6, and 6 minus 6 is 0. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we have subtracted 6 5 times. Okay, and when we put a table, we say 5 times 6 is 30. We actually mean this. But let's build on this. So we can write 30 divided by 6 this way. We can say 30 over 1 divided by 6 over 1, because any whole number we can put denominator as 1 and the value stays the same. Like value of 30 over 1 is 30 and 6 over 1 is 6. So 30 divided by 6 is equal to 5. But check here, what we are doing here is changing this division into multiplication by changing this divisor and replacing it by its multiplicative inverse. Now its multiplicative inverse of 6 over 1 is 1 over 6. So if we multiply 6 over 1 by 1 over 6, answer is going to be 1. When a number is multiplied by its multiplicative inverse, always answer is 1. So in fractions it is easy, just put the denominator into numerator and numerator into denominator, and that becomes the multiplicative inverse. So in that way we have changed this division into multiplication, and now if we solve it, 1 times 30 is 30, and 6 times 1 or 1 times 6 is 6. Now 30 divided by 6 is equal to 5 that we saw here and here. So this is the frequent method that we use to solve division problems in fractions. We change the division into multiplication by replacing the divisor by its multiplicative inverse, and we solve the multiplication. We have the same answer that we can get by division. All right. Let's look at a couple of other examples. 1 divided by 4. Now we know by this conceptual method there are 4 1/4 in 1. So 1 divided by 1/4 means how many times 1/4 we can subtract from 1, or how many 1/4 are in 1. So we know the answer 4. Now changing this division into multiplication using the method we used here, we replace this divisor by its multiplicative inverse. Its multiplicative inverse is 4 over 1. And this is 1 over 4 or 1/4. We put the denominator in numerator and numerator into denominator and becomes multiplicative inverse. So this way we change the problem into multiplication, and that gives us the same answer. 4 times 1 is 4, and 1 times 1 is 1 basically, but 1 in denominator means 4. So by division, the answer we know conceptually that there are 4 1/4 in 1. So when we say 1 divided by 1/4, we mean how many 1/4 are in 1, or how many times 1/4 we can subtract from 1, and we know 4 times we can do that. And by multiplying this way, by using the multiplicative inverse of divisor, we also get the answer 4. And same goes in this problem. 5 divided by half is equal to 10. In other words, how many halves are in 5? We know there are 10 halves in 5. And using the multiplicative inverse of divisor, which is 1 over 2 or half, and its multiplicative inverse is 2 over 1. So we multiply 5 by 2 over 1 and answer is 10. So this is the common method we use. We change the division into multiplication by replacing the divisor with its multiplicative inverse, like we have done in these cases here. All right. So this is all procedural, but that's the easiest way we do. Okay, so let's do some more problems to consolidate our learning. 300 divided by half is equal to 600, that we know. In other words, there are 600 halves in 300, or we can subtract half 600 times from 300. And changing this into multiplication like we did earlier, by replacing this divisor by its multiplicative inverse, which is 2 over 1. Now multiplication 300 2 times is 600, and 1 in denominator stays same. So 600 over 1 is actually equal to 600. All right. Or in other words, if we divide 600 by 1, answer is 600. Okay. So let's look at another problem. Half, or 1 over 2 divided by 1/8. Okay, and 1/8, we know that there are 4 1/8 in a half, because in a whole there are 8/8. So in a half it is going to be 4 1/8. And using this multiplicative inverse method to change this into multiplication, we are using 1/8 multiplicative inverse, which is 8 over 1. So 1 times 8 is going to be 8, and 1 times 2 is going to be 2. So 8 over 2, and if we simplify, that is going to be equal to 4, right? So answer is going to be 4, which we also saw here. Another problem here, 6 over 4 divided by half, or in other words, how many halves are in 6 over 4. Now we know that 6 over 4 is actually 1.5, because these are fourth parts and we have such 6 parts. 6 4 parts. So 4 part makes 1 and other 2 4 parts make half. So there are 3 halves here, and so if we divide it by half, answer is going to be 3, because in 3 halves, half is going to be 3 times. So changing this into multiplication using replacing this by its multiplicative inverse, which is 2 over 1. Now we have multiplication. 6 multiplied by 2 is equal to 12. 4 multiplied by 1 is equal to 4. And if we simplify that, in other words, 3 times 4 is 12, so answer is going to be 3. And here we also have 3 answers. So this is a commonly used procedure to solve the fraction division problems by changing into multiplication by using multiplicative inverse of the divisor. Alright, so let's look at some real life examples. How many 1/3s are in 540? And we may get this kind of problems in many situations. So simply we can solve this by dividing 540 by 1/3 or 1 over 3. Or in other words, we are saying how many times 1/3 we can subtract from 540, and the answer is going to be 1620. And using this multiplicative inverse to change it into multiplication, we can solve 540 multiplied by 3 is 1620. 1 by 1 is 1. So 1620 over 1 is actually 1620. Alright. So there are 1620 1/3s are in 540. Alright. Let's look at another problem. A car is running at an average speed of 1.5 kilometers per minute. How many minutes will it take to cover 22 kilometers? Okay, so this is also straightforward. We just divide 22 by 1.5 because 22 kilometers. We are being asked like how many minutes it takes in 22 kilometers, and we know that it takes 1.5 kilometers per minute. So if we divide this, we are going to get the number of minutes. So 22 divided by 1.5, and changing this into multiplication using the multiplicative inverse of this. So this, if we change into improper fraction, is going to be 3 over 2, and its multiplicative inverse is 2 over 3. So 22 2 times is 44, and 1 3 times is 3. Now if we change this into a mixed fraction, it's going to be 14 whole and 2/3, which is the time this car will take to cover 22 kilometers or run for 22 kilometers. Alright, so these are just a couple of examples how we use division in our real life. Alright, so here are some exercise problems for you. You can solve them, and you can see my more videos to see the solution of these problems. And here are some word problems for you, reflecting different situations involving division of fractions. So you can also see some solutions of these problems in my other videos. And subscribe our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. And happy learning math.